Good evening. Calling the meeting to order. Welcome to the West Hartford Public Schools Regular Board of Education meeting. It is Tuesday, September the 19th, 2023. Charlotte, may you please call the roll?
Ms. Fernandez?
Here.
Mr. Goldman?
Present.
Dr. Harris?
Here.
Dr. Kamoff?
Here.
Mrs. Nezzarella?
Present.
Dr. Steinberg?
Here.
Dr. Thomas Farquharson?
Here.
Student Representative Liam Wright?
Here.
Student Representative Chris Ramal?
Here.
Thank you. And Chris, may you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We do not have a revision to the agenda order, and now it is time for public communications. This is when we're able to hear from you, your thoughts, your questions, your concerns. Each individual has 3 minutes to speak, and when you come to the podium, we ask that you please share your name and your town of residence. Please be mindful of Charlotte, who will hold up a yellow card when you have 1 minute remaining in your time, and a red card when your time has expired. And we ask for you please to pause and respectfully take your seat at that time. Now, we do have a policy where the first meeting of the month we have received open comments on any agenda item, whereas the second meeting of the month we receive comments on agenda items. However, recognizing that the board welcomes public comment as it represents an opportunity for members of the public to express their views to the board on matters within the board's authority. Board Bylaw 8355 provides, in relevant part, that public comment on non-agenda items shall only be permitted at the first regular meeting of the month. Notwithstanding this limitation, when we adopted this policy, the board had significant discussions in public sessions about waiving or suspending this policy for a specified purpose. Board Bylaw 8330 allows the board to suspend any policy or bylaw for a limited time by a 2/3 vote of the entire Board of Education. That being said, given the turnout for tonight's meeting, which is much larger than usual, as well as recent events that have transpired, I would like to make a motion to suspend Board Policy 8330 for the duration of tonight's meeting only. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion.
So I feel I'm in a little bit of a funny position with this. I mean, I most certainly am entirely in favor of listening to public comment, and if people remember, I fought the change in the current policy adamantly that we should always have people be able to speak, because I welcome and I want to hear what people in this audience have to say. But what I don't want to be is an arbiter of free speech. And I am a little bit concerned that we are only going to make this accommodation some of the time, but not all of the time. And I think it's really important for a democratic process that we as a board are willing to listen to everybody when they want to speak to us, and not decide who can speak and who can't speak. And I'm going to vote in favor of this motion, but I am concerned that if we have another situation where people want to speak, that we won't suspend the rules for them. And then we become arbiters of who can speak and who can't speak. And I think that's a very, very dangerous place to go.
Other comments?
I'm going to vote in favor, and I think it's a good idea, but I do agree with Gail. I wish we were back in the old way, but that's not the place or time for that discussion. So,
Calling for the vote. All of those in favor with the motion on the floor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? The ayes have it. The motion has passed. Therefore, this evening we will receive comments that are not on agenda items. And for the purpose of our awareness, the agenda items do entail safety and security update, and personnel actions. But again, with the passing of the most recent motion, we will receive comments that do not pertain to those described agenda items. I will start with those that have listed their name on the list here, and we have Abby Williamson. Again, if you can, although I just said your name, please restate your name and your town of residence, and please be mindful, right there, yes. Please be mindful of Charlotte and the yellow card and the red card.
Sure. Thank you very much, and thank you for the opportunity for public comment on general topics this evening. My name is Abby Williamson. I'm a West Hartford resident. We are longtime friends of the family that has experienced this terrible racial slur that happened at Sedgwick Middle School. And I'm here tonight in support of the family, and in particular in support of the young 8th grade student who continues have to go to school every day and have reminders of this incident that's occurred. And I'm hoping that we'll soon have updates on the timeline for the investigation, the possible outcomes. I think we could use additional information at this stage because I am concerned that more could be done to address an issue of this grievous concern. So thank you. Thank you for the time.
Thank you. That is all who I have who've signed up on the list here. However, is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak?
Hi, thank you. And again, thank you for suspending the rule. My name is Sarah Raskin from West Hartford, Connecticut. I'm also just here really in support of this family that is in so many ways grieving. I hope that we can find ways to heal the people who were involved and every child in the classroom and every child in West Hartford, because they've all been impacted by this event. And I just want to recognize that these events don't happen in a vacuum. They happen as part of systems. One of those systems is just racism in our culture. But at a more local level, the system is the West Hartford Public Schools. And so I just urge and hope that this is an opportunity to look at how it could be possible that a teacher who is in the West Hartford schools could stand in front of a room of children and say something like that. I mean, there shouldn't have been a way that somebody who has been vetted by our school system could do that. And so I'm hoping that we take this as an opportunity to look within and figure out how this could have happened and make sure that nothing like this happens again. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak?
I'm Amy Fishman. I live in West Hartford. I'm here in support of the family. And I also just wanted to bring up the topic of school resource officers and police and how that is not always the answer with students of color. It's not the answer at all. So I saw the agenda, I saw the safety plan. I think it's just words, to be perfectly honest, because we have no update and we have an 8th grader still going to school with a picture of this woman still up. So we have to think about how our students of color feel. How do our students receiving special education feel? How do the kids in this town that have been treated like this feel? Step out of your white world for 5 seconds. This is not going away. The conversation is just beginning. Nobody talks about race in this town, and when you do, you get chastised. It's not allowed. I am concerned with the safety of the students, period. So action needs to be not talking, not words, not safety plans being emailed to parents. Actual actions, please.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to comment?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Yvette Early, and I'm from Bristol, Connecticut. And I'm here on behalf of the family as well. When this struck my attention, I have to tell you, it immediately brought me back to my childhood when I was 14 and in school history class. And that word was used alongside with the word of slavery. And then I had my teacher, who happened to be white, to look at me and smile. And I was the only black student in class. and having all of the other children laugh at me and mimic me every day when I had to come to class. And it seemed like every day the teacher targeted me. So I feel how this young man feels and stuff, because this lives with you for the rest of your life. And it lives with you always. My question is, when will it stop? Because it shouldn't matter about our color, the color of our skin. We breathe in the same air. We bleed red, all of us. We're all one in the same spirit, and we're all supposed to be helping one another. And when we can't do that, there's something wrong. And if it was your child, what would you do? These are our children. I stand here because I have 4 grandchildren, and I would fight this fight with them and for them. So we all have to learn how to stick together. Yes, Black life matters, but it really matters to us, and we have to show that it matters to our children. And that's all I want to say.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to comment?
My name is Evelise with BLM 860. Despite being a Hartford resident, I am co-owner of a property on Edgemont Street with my siblings. So I'm a West Hartford taxpayer. I came here today because when I was 18 and in college, I moved in with my grandmother. Throughout the years, I've spoken to people who did grow up in West Hartford, a lot of them of color. You know, being called the N-word in Bugby School back in the 90s. You know, me and my friends being harassed as 19-year-olds over at West Farms Mall because, you know, there's a group of us and why aren't we at Buckland? You know, that's what security had to say. It's a nice town. There's awesome services here. And, you know, my brother graduated from Hall. My cousins graduated from Hall. My grandmother still lives there. A couple of my cousins have moved on. The education might be great, but it's something that you carry for the rest of your life. It's something that taxpayers shouldn't be funding. I don't know why a math teacher thought it was appropriate to use that word. I don't know why there's a debate about any of this or any back and forth. It is time that we discuss that despite having really good educational services here, you know, there are disproportionate outcomes at times for children of color. You know, we don't talk enough about how many children of color are in the STRIVE program compared to, you know, their Caucasian counterparts. We don't talk about things like that. So the education here might be great, and it's very easy to dismiss these incidents as one-offs instead of looking at the fact that when the town of West Hartford passes an ordinance saying that 2 people can't wear red in Kennedy Park, they're targeting people of color. So I don't know if that ordinance is still on the books, but it was when I was a teenager. So thank you very much for allowing me to speak and for suspending the rules today. And I do hope this child's incident is taken seriously. My niece attends that school, and I'm very concerned. Thank you.
Thank you. Next comment, please.
Good evening. My name is Lee Thomas Morton. I am the grandmother of this child. I grew up in Hartford. I still live in Hartford. I grew up in Hartford at a time when the area I lived in was predominantly Jewish, French, and Italian. However, I'm here today to support my daughter and her child. This should never happen. I don't know what the teacher was thinking when she did use the racial slur. There's many ways to speak on this kind of a subject. You do not have to use the actual word. However, she chose to use it more than once. She actually stuck him out. Once you start having an actual conversation with the individual that's asking the question, instead of pointing the answer to the classroom, you are sticking the individual out. It is unacceptable. He's a black child in America, and as black people in America, I am first generation in America as a black woman. Okay? What I want to say is, it is wrong, it's unacceptable, inappropriate. Had it been a teacher of color that had done something like this to a white child, we would be looking at the back of their head as they walked out the door and been kicked in the butt. I'm just going to say, there needs to be justice. It needs to be heard, and it needs to be expeditious. I don't believe that anyone in this room in 2023 think it's okay to answer a question in a way that hurts the child. I can't tell you what she was thinking, but I can tell you I don't believe she was thinking, because he's only 13. He has been in West Hartford school system since kindergarten. He understands the difference. When a child asks you to explain something, it's because they want an answer. I learned when I was a child, no question is a stupid question. Once again, being first generation in America was not easy, but I was never called by a slur. And I'm not going to sit here and act like it's okay, because it isn't. What I will say is, West Hartford, it doesn't mean that everybody in West Hartford is that way. However, I want to see what you're made of. I want to see what you are made of. I want to see what happens, and I want you to show that you can put your money where your mouth is. Because there's a lot of money, but what about your moral values? What about the child that's going to be affected for the rest of his life? My brother is in the audience this evening. His name is Fred. And he experienced something, and he talks about it. When this came about, it touched his heart. And also my friend Yvette that was in the audience, she spoke earlier. I don't want this to become an issue where he struggles to go into a classroom because of the color of his skin. It's about the content of your heart. Whatever you want to do, you can do. I am a professional. Why? Because my family stood behind me. Being first generation wasn't easy, but we made it. And I'm going to continue to look to see what's going to be done in this situation. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Are there any other comments?
Good evening. Thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Narelle Thomas, and I'm here in support of the family as well. And I am a Hartford resident. I just wanted to say that it broke my heart when I heard about the incident that we're here for tonight, which I feel as though we should not have to be gathered here for this reason. And I just wanted to also mention that I don't find that it's appropriate that the teacher who did this with whatever intention they spoke on should be employed by any school system going forward, and should have the proper actions taken. And no matter what happens, I think that it will be a testament to the morals of the school. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? I'll ask again.
Hello, my name is Ella Sampson. I'm from West Hartford. I went to school at Whiting Lane for elementary school. Yeah, and just hearing this story, I really felt for the child and for the family. And I just want to say, as a child or someone who attended Whiting Lane, I think a lot about the impact that different incidents that happened there had on me. Incidents of teachers using the N-word in English class and then not having enough information on how to deal with that. And it's just something that really impacts you. So I just want to say that. I went there in the 2010s, but yeah.
Thank you. Any other comments? I'll ask one last time. Any other comments? Okay, we'll put a pause on public communications. Now moving on to non-staff communications and reports. This is where we're able to hear from our student representatives. They're able to share updates from their respective schools. And if we could begin with Chris, please, reporting on Conard.
Yeah, so at Conard, we celebrated 24 National Merits scholars who, with 2 of them being semifinalists in National Merit. We began our National Hispanic Heritage Month celebration with music and our announcements, and every single day we do an announcement of an individual of Hispanic heritage who has brought significance, I believe. And we kicked off our curriculum night last Wednesday where parents could come in and speak to teachers, and that went well. And the new Conard Wolf Zen Garden has been set up and it is running. It is a garden near the cafeteria where students can go out to eat or just to have a calm place to sit down and relax. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. And Liam, reporting on Hall.
Yes, so many sports have begun, football, soccer, field hockey, to name a few. However, due to recent weather, there have been many postponements. Club activities have also started for clubs such as Morrow and the Environmental Club and many more. Seniors have started to go to senior workshop, which will help them prepare them for post-high school experiences. And we've also had college visitors and college representatives come to our school to speak with the seniors. The class meetings have concluded with Mr. Zatoon, and also we have had 4 National Merit semifinalists and numerous other National Merit scholars. Thank you.
Thank you, Liam. Thank you, Chris. I want to share with the both of you that we so very much appreciate your presence here and all that you contribute and share. However, we know that you are students first. So please, at any point in time, if you have to leave early during the meeting, we collectively respect that, want you to attend to your studies, and please do so. Thank you so much for your updates. Moving on now to unfinished business, which we do not have any of. New business, we do not have any of. Now moving on to staff communications and reports, where we are able to hear our superintendent's report. Mr. Vicinas, passing it on to you.
Thank you very much, and it's a pleasure to be in front of the board again. I am pleased to provide a report on really the undertakings of school opening as a whole this evening. So with school a good 2 weeks underway, it's been a pleasure to be in and out of our buildings. And despite the rainy days, our students appear to be happy to be back among their friends and their peers. They generally are engaged by our dedicated and talented staff, and they are presently learning and growing. Last week, our middle schools welcomed 6th grade families to their open house nights at both our elementary, at our middle schools. Both our elementary and our high schools have hosted curriculum nights, both during this week and in the coming week. And the district and leadership and clinical staff were invited to the annual Bridge Breakfast this past Wednesday morning, where our town's own Helen Rubino Turco was awarded the Build No Fences Award for her tireless work and to support our community. We have a number of updates to give you, not the least of which Chris mentioned. On Friday, the 15th of September, we did kick off National Hispanic Heritage Month. Schools and departments host a number of educational and cultural events to highlight the contribution not only of our Hispanic, but also our Latinx population. In addition to classroom activities, our libraries have curated a collection of books that students may further engage with, and our district website has resources posted should our families choose to explore for their own study and interest. As reported this summer, but very important for our public to know, Public Act 23-204 has established a new graduation requirement, commencing with the class of 2027, which is our current high school freshman class. This act requires a half a credit of study in personal financial management and financial literacy. Our financial literacy course that we do offer meets this new state requirement. And our policy subcommittee will be having a meeting this fall in order to review the requirement in greater detail and make amendments to our local graduation policy in order to align to the new state law. This morning, our town and district hosted a delegation of 6 mayors and members of the Ministry of Education from Albania as part of a peer learning exchange. The purpose of their visit was to learn about pre-kindergarten and early childhood education, our systems and standards and procedures. At the district level, Dr. Carrie Jones coordinated a presentation which included myself, Ann McKernan, and Irene Garneau, who is our department supervisor for early childhood education, as well as a site visit to Charter Oak International Academy pre-K classrooms. Luann Sika, who is the Community Development and Block Grant Coordinator, helped to facilitate the meeting, and the afternoon included meetings on the town side to include interfacing with our own mayor and town manager. I'm very excited to report Duffy Elementary School was recently treated to a visit by Dr. Michael Goodman, who is a pediatrician from IU Health in Indiana, who also has Treacher-Collins syndrome, or TCS. Dr. Goodman provided an educational and inspirational remarks to our Duffy 3rd and 4th graders who are reading the book Wonder by R.J. Palacio. This book was popularized by a 2017 movie featuring Julia Roberts and Owen Wilson. To paraphrase Dr. Goodman, your words and your actions are among the few things you can control, so choose kind. Celebrations. Our 7th grade student from KPM, Yasmin Morera de Sousa Lopez, was recognized for her heroic efforts supporting the West Hartford Fire Department during the severe flooding impacting her neighborhood. Yasmin supported the fire department in door-to-door evacuation of an apartment complex by communicating with residents in both Spanish and Portuguese. She clearly demonstrated virtues and values within our vision of the graduate, and we're very proud of her. Current Hall Junior Owen Wang was recognized as one of only 48 students worldwide who to earn a perfect score in AP United States Government and Politics exam last year. Owen took the AP Gov class last year with Ms. Colleen Pelling, and we're very proud of his accomplishment. And as Chris mentioned, Conard is boasting 2 and Hall is boasting 4 National Merit semifinalists based on their performance in the PSAT last year. Only slightly greater than 1% of the roughly 1.4 million test takers meet the criteria for this recognition, and there are additional 32 students between Conard and Hall who have earned a commended scholar recognition. That is my update for this evening, pending your questions.
Thank you. Teammates, any comments regarding the update? Yes, Claire.
Yeah, Paul, I was curious, with the financial literacy addition, there was also an elimination of the mastery experience, but are we continuing that within the district?
So the mastery experience will be a requirement through the classes of 2026, and that is a piece that we will be looking at and having conversations in terms of our recommendations as we move with the policy subcommittee.
Other questions or comments? All right, thank you so much. Now moving on to staff reports and board discussions, where we will receive the safety and security update. And we welcome to the table Dr. Andrew Morrow and Mr. Eric Dency, who will report out. And we have Lieutenant Tommy Luzur. Yes, welcome. Thank you.
Great. So as they get settled, I want to just mention student safety and school security is obviously one of our most critical tasks. And as an institution, we know that education continues to face complex challenges in an ever-changing environment. And we hope to balance what is to be a safe and secure environment for our schools with that of being welcoming and conducive for learning. and it's extremely fortunate that West Hartford boasts an amazing relationship with the West Hartford Police Department, and it's a pleasure to introduce Lieutenant Tommy Lazor, who is the commanding officer of the Community Relations Unit. I believe everyone knows Mr. Eric Dency, who is not only our Director of School Security, but a trusted and respected law enforcement professional of his own regard with significant experience at both the state and federal level, as well as Dr. Andy Morrow, our Assistant Superintendent for Administration, who oversees all of our safety and security programs for the district and is expert not only in our systems and structures, but also the policy and the law governing the requirements. So with that introduction, I turn it over to these very capable folks.
Thank you, Paul. As you've heard us say many times, West Hartford Public Schools consider the physical and emotional safety of our students and staff as our primary responsibility. And we approach this work in many ways. First, we work diligently to create a culture where all members feel connected to our school and to our work. We know that when students feel comfortable asking for help or sharing concerns, our schools become safer. And this is a culture that we've built very diligently over the years. Another important aspect of our approach is enhancing the physical safety measures in each of our buildings. For over a decade, we've been completing assessments and upgrading our schools with the newest and most efficient technologies. And the third prong of our approach is advanced planning and preparation, using drills, training opportunities, and interagency cooperation. For our climate, over the past 3 years, we've added additional staff trained in counseling and mental health support, including 5 elementary counselors, 3 additional social workers, 2 middle school counselors, a student mental health coordinator, a trauma interventionist, and a home-to-school liaison. We've also expanded our contact and our contract with the Bridge to service additional students that we know are in need of support. We continue to use and train our staff in our proactive risk assessment process, which is a tool for better understanding a situation when a student makes a threat to another person, to the school, or to the larger community. This is completed by a trained, certified behavior specialist working with parties involving, including the West Hartford Police when it's appropriate. And we really try to put the right people in a room to assess the risk factors, the warning signs, and the stabilizing factors that we have available to make sure a student and a situation is safe before we return them to the larger community. And we also have Sandy Hook Promise, a program we've been working with over the past couple of years, which has been a partner that continues 2 programs within our schools. The first, Start with Hello, teaches our students to be more socially inclusive and connected to one another. And the second, Say Something, includes lessons on how to empathize with others, seek help when needed, identify problems, and to analyze situations. One of the best tools I think that we've introduced over the past decade has been our anonymous alert system. And this technology is available to our secondary schools, both on computers and to our students through a mobile application. And it allows anyone who sees a dangerous situation to alert school staff in an anonymous manner. At the start of each year, all secondary principals make students, staff, and caregivers aware of this tool. We educate students about the importance of reporting safety issues. We have flyers around the school, and the anonymity of this approach encourages those who feel vulnerable to speak up and to help resolve issues. Over the past 2 years, we've had more than 450 reports each year through this system. And these are reports that some, if they are a lower level, are acted upon at the school. These are reports that after the school day are monitored 24/7. The system's monitored 24/7, both by Eric and myself, as well as West Hartford Police. It's not uncommon that we get a report at 1 in the morning about a student safety issue, that we are in contact with each other and making sure that someone is having eyes on the student if there's a risk involved, because we want to make sure that we're acting upon this information. We also include targeted lessons through our social emotional learning program, which these lessons focus on developing self-image, strengthening self-management, examining conflict resolution approaches, and understanding responsible decision-making, among other skills. They're inclusive, and they assist students in making connections with school staff and with their peers. And last, we also have community resource officers. We continue to partner with the West Hartford Police Department, and we're grateful for the addition this year of 2 community resource officers. They are trusted faces in our schools. They assist with lessons, safety, and support at the pre-K level. I'll turn it over to Eric, and he can walk through our approach with site security training and with drills.
Thank you, and good evening. Some updates. Last year we spoke about InformaCast, which is our new state-of-the-art alert lockdown system. We have 2 schools that are fully online and a third that's scheduled to go online with the system very shortly. Work is also begun at all the other schools as far as mapping out, and planning out, the design of the system. As a reminder, it's a mass notification system that uses both audio and visual alerts to inform people of an event that's going on inside the school. The advantage of this new system is that it calls 911 and activates both the audio and visual alerts throughout the building. Some updates to our physical infrastructure, our entrances and windows. Work continues over the summer. Duffy was retrofitted with a new entryway. Upon entry into the school, visitors are allowed into a waiting area where they are visually identified by school staff before being granted access into the main office. Additional cameras were also installed at Duffy as well. As part of our ongoing partnership with the West Hartford Police Department, on August 29th, our full team of West Hartford Public School security guards joined the West Hartford Police Department for training that was held at the West Hartford Police Department. This cross-agency training consisted of updates to recent active shooter events, including lessons learned from the Nashville Covenant School incident. They also received updated medical response training on bleed control and tourniquet application. Our schools follow the state of Connecticut's mandatory school safety drills each year. We work collaboratively with the guards and the West Hartford Police Department officials to evaluate each and every drill and schools' performance during the drills and provide feedback and improvement. West Hartford schools are in the process of updating our district-wide all-hazard plan, which will be submitted to the state by November 1st. This is a collaborative effort working with the West Hartford Police Department again and the West Hartford Fire Department and Emergency Management. Again, this report, doesn't capture only just a fraction of the scope of the work that we do to keep our students and staff safe every day, and we cannot fully capture everything in one report, but we open it up to any questions that you might have for us.
Thank you so much for the information. Colleagues, any questions or comments with what has been shared so far?
I have a question. Hi. So just wanting to know about, just hearing about the emotional safety of students. And I know that there was some integration of restorative justice in West Hartford Public Schools, and wanting to know, are the new counselors and social workers and school resource officers also a part of that training and implementation?
That's a great question. And in fact, the state of Connecticut has a new statute that in 2025, districts will have to have an overall policy on restorative practices in all of the schools. And so we're well ahead of that. We've been working on that with our middle schools. This will be our second year working with the middle schools, and the counselors are all fully engaged in that. And we've also then began working formally with that process at the high school level as well with our counselors. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Claire.
So I was very excited to hear about the students. I think over 30 students got CERT trained this past summer, and maybe 30 to 40 for next summer. Is there any way to incorporate some of these Hall or Conard students that have had some of this community emergency response team background to help in the school in any way? They graduated through the program. I'm just wondering if there's an opportunity.
We've worked closely with Bob McHugh and his group on that, and we've we'll always be looking for opportunities. We haven't yet, in that we try in drills and such. Our focus is on keeping students safe and not engaging them in in a process on that. Some of the work that we will be doing this year on reunification and evacuation drills may involve students, once those students who are certified, obviously, once we get to that reunification site, might be involved in assisting us with that.
Gail.
Thank you. So I am curious about the resource officers and the security guards, and I was just wondering if you could elaborate a little bit more about what we have in place at every school. It seems to me, and I could be wrong on this, that when I go by the high schools, there's usually a police car in front of the schools. I don't know, is that something that we have there all the time? And is that the security guard, or is the security guard something else? I'd just like a little bit more information. Thank you.
So we have an MOU with the West Hartford Police Department for school resource officers, SROs, as they're commonly referred to, that are assigned to our 2 high schools. So those are the cars you would see up front. As Andy had talked about earlier, we also have community resource officers that we're fortunate to work with in the district. Now, community resource officers aren't assigned to one specific school, but they divide their time throughout the community. We do kind of monopolize a lot of their time because we have a great relationship, so we encourage them. We have them inside of our building, but they also have other duties outside, whether it's car seat installations, and Lieutenant Jure, if I miss something, as well as the private schools as well. So they're in our elementary schools and in our middle schools as well every day, in and out. They have different rotations that they go through. So our SROs are assigned to the high schools with our MOU, and then our community resource officers split their duties between the elementary and the middle school.
You want to explain that?
Explain our security personnel?
Yeah, and the security staff are assigned to the, we have elementary guards that are assigned to the elementary schools. They split their duties between the 11 respective elementary schools. And then we have a contingent of security guards that are assigned, BOE employees that are assigned to both the high schools and the middle schools.
Follow up for a minute. So does the community resource officers, are those members of the police department? They are.
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
SROs and CROs are just, they are sworn police officers, and then security guards are employees of the town, the Board of Ed.
And is the security officers, are they armed, or they're just there as a security measure?
They're,
our security officers are not armed, but they're trained in intervention, they're trained in de-escalation, and they're there to really provide support if a student is dysregulated, if a student is struggling in a conflict.
And then I would just add, the presence of our community resource officers within our elementary and middle schools, and certainly our SROs at the high school. They do participate in some lessons that we will provide to students regarding, like, whether it be overall safety, child protective unit, things of these natures, where the real intent is to be able to have the opportunity for students to be at an early age interacting with law enforcement professionals in a very positive and educational way that helps to build trust and kind of creates that. I think that's the whole purpose of even the name, the community resource officer, just a person out in your community that you can go to in times of issues and can help provide you some guidance.
If I could, one of the other, Gail, you mentioned a good thing about sometimes when you drive up to a school, you'll see a police car there. That's by design as well. I don't want parents to ever think that a police car in front of the school is a negative thing, because what we do is we have such a great relationship with West Hartford Police. We encourage, and they have patrol officers and traffic officers who, when they're not on a call, we encourage them to go to our schools and to make themselves known and to walk through the school, because if we ever had to have them respond in an emergency, we want them to know, or at least be familiar with, the layout of Hall or Conard or Bugby and such. And so we encourage them to be doing that. And so it's very common that you'll see a patrol car in front of our buildings.
Other questions or comments? Claire.
Can someone speak to how lockdown drills have changed over the years? We've been doing them 20-some years now. which is crazy. But can you share a little bit about what the protocol is when a lockdown is called?
Sure, without getting into the specifics for security purposes, a lot has changed over the years. Our goal, as I always say, is to prepare and not scare. We want people to be able to react in a time of crisis, and we've accomplished that through many different ways, starting with administration. We are big on tabletop exercises with all our leadership staff. We just met with the principals last week. We're going to be meeting with the middle school or the assistant principals to follow, going over tabletop exercises. We also train with school staff, both the teachers at the individual schools, on what to do in an emergency. Things like, locking a door in a crisis situation. Your fine motor skills go out the door. Something as simple as putting a key in a door, it could be difficult. And the big thing is about, kids knowing what to do, when that alert goes off. We want them to be able to, be quiet, go to the respective safe spots inside the building and follow the teacher's orders. That's the biggest thing that we could do, and statistically is just to be quiet and go behind cover and, a locked classroom door and await further instructions.
Yeah. Claire, I think that the biggest change, I would think, over the past 20 years is really our focus is on developing a situational awareness and having people try to think in a situation, because it's people want there to be a checklist. I do this, I do this, I do this, and oftentimes in an emergency, doing that, and that may not be the right response. And so we want them to, we drill so that it becomes a situation that they can think through. And that's really been a focus of ours.
Any other questions or comments?
Just one.
Ethan.
At the beginning, Andy, you mentioned incremental positions being added. Are those ESSER funds or is it regular dollars?
The majority of those were ESSER funds that were added. And so you'll have to make a decision about their secession, correct?
Gail.
Sorry, I just have one last question. Are the schools accessible to anybody who just kind of walks in, or are the schools are all sort of locked down?
Yeah, all of our buildings are locked. Our buildings have single entry points. And so actually now with Duffy being almost complete with that project, there's one more school, elementary school. The last construction project that we have will be Wolcott. And you in the town approved the funding for that in the CIP. That creates that single entry man trap setting where someone has to be buzzed into a holding area before they are released then into the office. Once they're in the office, their ID is checked. We have an automatic system that checks licenses and then prints individual picture IDs for a visit. But you can't just walk into the schools. There is a controlled entrance.
So do we have a man trap, and are you saying we have that in all the schools except for Wolcott?
We have that in the vast majority of the schools. We have a couple of schools that we have other systems in to control access, whether that be a person there monitoring or other things. Okay.
Other questions or comments? I have a quick question just to ensure I heard correctly with respect to the anonymous reporting. And you shared over the past 2 years, was it over 450 each year or collectively over the 2 years?
Last year we had 446 reports. In 21-22 school year we had 474 reports.
Oh my.
And so that's started from the first year we put the system in place, we had 70. So it's clearly, you can read that two ways. You can say that there is a need for those interventions, which there absolutely is, and you're well aware of that. You can also look at it from a level of acceptance and trust, that we've created a culture where it's not viewed as I'm ratting on my friend, it's I'm worried about my friend. And I would say the majority of the reports are, so-and-so just posted this online. I'm really scared and I can't get him on the phone, or I can't get her. I don't know, can someone please help? And those are the things that we are calling, that we're making sure that we're having police go and do a wellness visit at 11 o'clock at night, making sure someone has eyes on the student. And then we're able to follow up the next day with the appropriate supports.
Yeah, so I just want to piggyback. I'm so glad that Andy, said that, because ultimately that's our goal with the anonymous alerts, is that this is a system that people can have comfort and trust in using, and understand that, hey, if there is a need, even if it's a question, you have the ability to reach out, you have the ability to do so anonymously, and that there are caring adults on the other end of that line that are going to, dispatch that request to, whether that's a referral to a school counselor, a principal, law enforcement, based on what the issue is.
Thank you for the clarification. It certainly does seem like a bittersweet piece that is certainly needed. So thank you. Claire.
I think in your presentation a year ago, I had asked this, but has it been rolled out in the middle school, and do fifth grade students or fifth grade parents know about the number? With social media and some of the things that are happening with our younger kids, I'm just wondering, is it just a high school program right now?
No, it's always been a secondary program, so it's always been in both the middle schools and the high schools. It's not in the elementary schools, but each of our elementary schools have an anonymous reporting system available on their websites that parents and students can engage in.
Other questions, comments? All right. Thank you all so very much. Thank you. As we make the transition, we'll move on to personnel actions. And we welcome to the table Mr. Julio Duarte, who will report.
Good evening, everyone. So first, you could find my personnel report on page 4 of your packet. And as Eileen was just pointing out to me a little while ago, it seemed that I was very busy this summer. And so I just want to, again, publicly thank everyone in my office for the heavy lift that they do putting everything together, as well as all of our administrators and teachers that have given up a lot of their time too, to make sure that we go through a thorough process whenever we're bringing folks on board. But again, I did, and typically I'll come and do a report with our personnel every month or so. And since I just did a pretty in-depth report with our opening schools, I will save you from all that detail again, but I will just go through some numbers for you quickly. So the numbers that you see here and the folks really are represented from June. And so again, you can see that we had 19 resignations, 1 leave of absence, and 4 retirements. We also hired 66 contracted teachers, 13 interim teachers, and 4 administrators. And again, the difference between an interim and a contracted teacher is a contracted teacher is someone that we've hired, and they've got a contract with us. An interim is someone that's here, oftentimes filling in for someone that's out on a leave, perhaps a maternity leave, and they understand that there is a timeline on that hire. And so other than that, that really concludes my report, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that anyone would have.
All right, thank you. Teammates, questions? Ari.
Just given, where my line of work and looking at kind of, the impact on clinicians and having recent mass exoduses and burnout and all of that, I did notice in the resignations, I'm just wondering if you have any thoughts, that 6 of the resignations, which is 32% of the recent resignations, are from special education. And I'm just wondering if you think that speaks to some of the level of, a heavy ask for a lot of these teachers in special ed.
Yeah, I think that it speaks to special ed, to be honest with you. So, it's been interesting because as those folks have left and I've had a lot of conversations, it certainly has to do with just a lot that's on their plate, a lot that continues to come on their plate, but also as we've been able to onboard great candidates, they talk about where they're coming from and excited to be here because of the supports that we're able to offer. Yeah. And so I think it's a place where we've spent a lot of time. I know that Melissa's worked really, really hard to take a look at in general, caseloads and what we can do, and we've made a real conscious effort to try to reduce those a little bit and reduce the numbers. And I think at the end of the day, right, we've talked and you guys have heard a lot about the who we are as a district and what we believe in, and that's really at our core. And so that is going to continue to put on more work and more responsibility to folks. And so I think our job is to just make sure that we're supporting them and making sure that we're providing them what they need so that they can do what kids need. But it is something that we did take a hard look at. And like I said, Melissa's really done a deep dive into that with her staff as well. But I appreciate the question because it is something that was highlighted for us too.
Thank you.
Other question? Claire?
Just a quick question. There's nobody step 1, step 2. Is that a typical way to come in and you don't have step 1?
So actually our contract does not have a step 1. So the way the contract was negotiated, it's automatically brought on to step 2. I try to sell that when I bring people in. We admire you so much. We want you here. You're going on step 2.
Other questions or comments? All right, thank you so very much. Moving on now to routine matters where we will have approval of the minutes, seeking a motion that the Board of Education approve the minutes of the regular Board of Education meeting of September the 5th, 2023.
So moved.
Thank you, Renee. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ethan. Discussion? All of those in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? The ayes have it. Thank you so much. Moving on to information and reports. Do we have any communication and reports from other boards or organizations? Seeing none, moving on to other information and discussions. Seeing none, moving on to future business, announcement of future meeting dates. Our next meeting will be Tuesday, October the 3rd, 2023, here at the Town Hall, room 314 at 7 p.m., followed by Tuesday, October the 17th, 2023, 7 o'clock here in room 314. Then again, Wednesday, November the 8th, again, that is Wednesday, November the 8th, 2023, here at the Town Hall at 7 p.m., followed by Tuesday, November the 21st, 2023, here at 7 o'clock in room 314. Do we have any requests for future agenda items? Seeing none, do we have any visitors who would like to make a comment? Seeing none, we do not have an executive session, therefore seeking a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you, Ari. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Renee. Meeting adjourned at 8:01.